Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Jake, also known as the Haunted Beard. Thank you for joining me. Well, we are officially into 2025, and with the new year comes a whole new year of horror movie releases that I am very much looking forward to. So that's what I want to bring you today. Kind of going through the calendar year here and talking about all the movies that I'm anticipating and looking forward to. And in addition to the horror movies, I'm also going to include some thrillers and kind of horror adjacent type films as well. So without further ado, here we go. So kicking things off, the first film I'm looking forward to is Wolfman. This comes out on January 17th, and this one is about a family at a remote farmhouse who is attacked by an unseen animal. But as the night stretches on, the father begins to transform into something unrecognizable. And this one is, of course, directed by Leigh Whannell, stars Christopher Abbott and Julia Garner. Leigh Whannell, one of the best directors working in horror today. And this is looking like it's going to be another kind of modernized, updated sort of remake on one of the classic, monster horror films. And much like with The Invisible Man, and here he's taking on the Wolfman. So I saw a little bit of the trailer for this one, which I typically try to avoid, but I caught it when I saw Nosferatu in the theaters the other day. So got a few glimpses of it. Looking forward to it. I think Christopher Abbott's great as well, so very much looking forward to seeing what he does with Wolfman. Next up is a film called Presence. This comes out on January 24th. And this one is about a family who becomes convinced they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. And the main reason why this one's on my list is because it is directed by Steven Soderbergh. And he actually is going to have another film that I'm going to talk about here in just a little bit. But yeah, Soderbergh, one of the best, one of the more interesting directors working in movies today. This one stars Lucy Liu and Julia Fox. And this one made the rounds in some of the film festivals last year. And looks like it had gotten some pretty good reviews. So definitely looking to see what Soderbergh brings with Presence. Next up on January 31st is a film called Companion. This one stars Sophie Thatcher, who was in last year's Heretic. Gave a really strong performance in that. And it also stars Jack Quaid, who's somebody that I've recently become a pretty big fan of because of his work in the Amazon Prime series, The Boys. Really like that show, but really like his character and his performance in that show as well. But this one is more of a dark comedy, kind of psychological thriller. It tells the story of a billionaire's death that sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to his lakeside estate. And this is another one, I caught a little bit of a glimpse of the trailer when I was in the theaters, seeing Nosferatu again. And what I saw kind of intrigued me. I like the cast here. It just looked interesting. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens on January 31st. Next up is The Gorge. This one is coming out directly to Apple TV Plus on February 14th. This one is directed by Scott Derrickson. And this one is about two highly trained operatives who become close after being sent to protect opposite sides of a mysterious gorge. This one stars the great Anya Taylor-Joy, who, pretty much anything she's in, if it's in the horror thriller genre, I'm sold, I'm there. But it also stars Miles Teller and Sigourney Weaver. So you got good talent behind the camera, good talent in front of the camera. This one looks interesting. It's kind of described a little bit more as like an action-adventure, sci-fi romance as well. So a lot of interesting kind of genres mixing together here. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this one on the 14th of February. Coming out on February 21st is The Monkey. And this is going to be Osgood Perkins' follow-up to last year's Longlegs. This one is based on a short story by Stephen King. And this one is about twin brothers Bill and Hal who find their father's old monkey toy in the attic. And a series of gruesome deaths start. So this one stars Elijah Wood and Tatiana Maslany. So another one where got a horror film, Stephen King's name, Osgood Perkins, good cast, sounds interesting. Sign me up. I hope this one's good. Next up is Vicious. This comes out on February 28th, and this one is directed by Brian Bertino, who directed The Strangers and also The Dark and the Wicked. This one stars Dakota Fanning, and it's about a woman who spends the night fighting for her existence as she slips down a rabbit hole contained Inside a Gift from a Late Night Visitor. This one has a very interesting kind of setup to it that I'm very intrigued. I think Bertino is a very talented director, so looking forward to this one on February 28th. All right, next up, we're stepping away from the horror genre for just a minute, but next up is Mickey 17, which comes out on March 7th. And this is Bong Joon-ho's next film, which I am very much looking forward to. This one is more of an adventure comedy, fantasy, sci-fi. This one has a fantastic cast: Robert Pattinson, Toni Collette, Mark Ruffalo, Steven Yeun. And in this one, Pattinson plays the title character, Mickey 17. He's known as this expendable, this sort of disposable astronaut crew member who's sent on these very dangerous missions, and he's sent to colonize this planet, and things go very much wrong. This is another one. The director alone pretty much sold me, but with the cast as well, I can't wait to see Mickey 17, one of my more anticipated films of the year. Next up is Black Bag. This one comes out on March 14th, and this is another film from Steven Soderbergh. This one stars Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, and this one is more of just a straight-up thriller. This one involves two intelligence agents played by Fassbender and Blanchett. They are married, and she gets accused of treason. And so Fassbender then has to make a choice whether or not to be loyal to her or to be loyal to his country. And so another, looks like a very fast-paced, intense thriller. Soderbergh again, so very curious. Really good cast, good director, sign me up. Next up is Ash. This comes out on March 21st, and this one is described as a horror sci-fi thriller. This one stars Eliza Gonzalez and Aaron Paul, is directed by Flying Lotus. And the setup here sounds pretty interesting. It's about a woman who wakes up on a distant planet and finds the crew of her space station viciously killed. Her investigation into what happened sets in motion a terrifying chain of events. I like the sci-fi type of setup here. Flying Lotus is someone I don't have much experience with. He hasn't made a whole lot of stuff. He made one of the segments in VHS 99, which I thought was pretty good. So I don't have super high hopes for this one, but I am curious, and we'll see what happens. Next up, coming out on April 18th, is a film called Sinners, and this one is described as twin brothers who return to their hometown to start again, to try to put their troubled lives behind, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. And this one is a horror film directed by Ryan Coogler. It also stars Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell. Looks pretty good, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Next up is Clown in a Cornfield. This one comes out on May 9th. And this one is based off of a book. And I haven't read the book, but it's a book that I've kind of seen pop up here and there. So I was familiar with the cover of it. And so as soon as I saw that picture, I was like, oh, they made an adaptation from the book. So this is a slasher horror film starring Kevin Durand and Will Sasso. And this one is about a fading Midwestern town in which Frendo the Clown, a symbol of bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying scourge. Next up, coming out on May 16th, is the next in the Final Destination series, that is Final Destination Bloodlines. This is the 6th film now in the series. Plot details are under wraps at the moment. This is looking like it's going to be one of, if not the final screen performance from the late, great Tony Todd. So I think that alone gives you enough reason to at least check it out. We'll see with this one. I don't have super high hopes, although I will say the last Final Destination is my favorite one in the franchise. So I'll be kind of curious to see where they go with it, where they're going to pick up in the timeline, and just what they'll do. So curious about it, but don't have super high hopes. Let's see what happens. Next up on May 23rd, we are sidestepping the horror genre again real quick, but I have to talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This is, of course, more of an action thriller, but look, I am a big fan of these movies. I think they're about peak action. They're some of the very best action films that are being made right now. So I can't wait for this one. Plot details are under wraps right now, although as far as I understand, this is kind of the second part to the previous installment that'll kind of, officially wrap up and conclude that story. So Very much looking forward to it. I'm sure whatever they do, it's going to be pretty good. Next up on May 30th is The Life of Chuck. And this is another one that is not specifically a horror film, but it is directed by Mike Flanagan. So I wanted to put it on the list, and it also is one that I am looking forward to. This one is described more as a kind of fantasy sci-fi film, and it tells a story of a life-affirming, genre-bending story based on Stephen King's novella about 3 chapters in the life of an ordinary man named Charles Krantz. So, given who we're working with here, Stephen King, Mike Flanagan, this one also stars Tom Hiddleston. Looking forward to seeing what Flanagan does, kind of operating outside of the horror boundary sort of thing. So, yeah, hopefully this one's good. I'll definitely be checking it out. Next up is 28 Years Later. This one comes out on June 20th, and Danny Boyle is back behind the camera here in the director's chair. And this one stars Ralph Fiennes, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and also Cillian Murphy. This is one horror fans have been waiting for a long time. Let's hope it delivers. Next up, there is not much known about this film, but it is slated for release on August 8th, and it is the untitled Paul Thomas Anderson film. And this one is a crime thriller. This one has a phenomenal cast with Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn. Look, those names is enough to get me there. Crime thriller, Paul Thomas Anderson, that cast, whatever it is, I am very, very curious. I can't wait for this one. Next up, coming out on August 15th is Nobody 2. This is, of course, the sequel to Nobody starring Bob Odenkirk, and I had a pretty fun time with that movie, and so I love Bob Odenkirk in that role. Man, I thought he just crushed it, so really curious to see what they do here with the sequel. This one also stars Connie Nielsen, Sharon Stone, and good old Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd himself, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Next up on August 29th is Thread, an Insidious Tale, and this looks like to be some sort of, spin-off on, of course, the Insidious films. This one is about a couple who resorts to a spell to travel back in time, hoping to prevent their daughter's tragic death. Bit of a horror, mystery, sci-fi thriller. This one stars Mandy Moore and Kumail Nanjiani. I'll be honest, I haven't seen all of the Insidious films, so this is one that it's on my list. I may need to kind of get caught up in that franchise before I watch this one, but it's on there. I'm curious about it, but we'll see. Next up, coming out on my birthday, September 26th, is The Bride. This one is directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, and it stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Christian Bale, and Jessie Buckley. And this looks to be like a rendition of the classic film The Bride of Frankenstein. This one's set in 1930 Chicago, and in addition to this being a horror film, it's also described as a musical as well. This one has me intrigued, given the fact that it is also a musical in addition to a horror film, and also, too, because it looks like we're actually going to get 2 Frankenstein movies upcoming this year. And this takes me to my next film, which is Frankenstein. And this one is directed by Guillermo del Toro. It stars Oscar Isaac and Christoph Waltz, and also the great Mia Goth. So, yeah, 2 Frankenstein movies this year. It looks like they're going to be a little bit different, but yeah, very curious and very excited about both of those. Hopefully we get something good. The next film is another one coming out on my birthday. It's going to be a good birthday this year, but that is Saw 11. And I can't believe that I am as excited as I am about the 11th film in the Saw franchise, but Saw 10, man, has really given me hope for the future of this franchise. So looking forward to this one. Plot is still under wraps. We don't really have any details, but yeah, my birthday can't get here soon enough this year. Very much looking forward to this one. Next up, coming out on October 17th, is Black Phone 2. And this is Scott Derrickson's second film that he's releasing this year. This one has the same cast as the original film. Ethan Hawke is returning. Plot details are currently under wraps. And this is one that I don't have super high hopes for, because if I'm being honest, I wasn't a huge fan of that first film. So it's on my radar. We'll see. I am curious about it, but I have some pretty reserved expectations. All right, just a few left for you here. These last few do not have a release date, so they are all currently TBD. But the first one here is Faces of Death. And this is a bit of a play, kind of nod to one of the, more notorious, controversial movies, Faces of Death, that came out in the 70s. But this one stars Dacre Montgomery, who you know from Stranger Things, and it's about a woman who is employed as a website content moderator who comes across a series of violent videos reproducing death scenes from a film. And just that plot alone has me intrigued. I did a video on my channel not too long ago where I talked about movies that have some sort of cursed media or cursed movie element within the film. That sort of concept within a film is something that always really intrigues me and I gravitate towards. And so this is looking like something kind of along those lines. So really interested and curious about this one. Next up is a film called Adrift, and this one is still in pre-production. So I'm not totally sure if it's going to come out in 2025. But I at least wanted to put it on your radar because it's directed by Darren Aronofsky, who is one of my favorites. Also stars Jared Leto, and it is a horror film, and it's about a fishing boat that discovers an abandoned yacht with a strange distress call. A deckhand agrees to take lone control of it while it's towed into port, but he soon discovers why it's called a ghost ship. And Aronofsky is one of those directors that for me is pretty much must watch. And so when you get him in the horror genre, you get films like Black Swan and Mother, which I think are two pretty great movies. And so, yeah, definitely looking forward to this one whenever it comes out. And the final film I want to talk to you about, this is another one that is in pre-production, but fingers crossed that we see it before the end of the year, but that is They Follow. And this is, of course, the sequel to It Follows, starring Micah Monroe, and I was a pretty big fan of that original film, and so, hearing that they're going to make a sequel for it, I'm there. I'm very much looking forward to it, so yeah, hopefully we get to see it this year. So, that is all I got for you today, everybody. Those are the movies that are on my radar. I'm sure I probably missed a couple here and there. It's hard to get every last one of them, but certainly those are some of the biggest ones and the ones I'm definitely looking most forward to. So hit me up down below. Let me know if I missed any big ones or if there's any that are on your list that you're looking forward to that I didn't mention. I'm always looking for more stuff to watch. Of course, there's going to be more than this as the year goes on that I'll continue to add to my list and all that. But that's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.